What's up, guys? My name is Drew.
And my name is John.
And welcome to Transit Live.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Transit. We really are glad that you have decided to join us today. We've got a great day planned for you with some great content and then awesome conversations with your small group leaders. If you've never watched Transit Live with us before, welcome. We're so glad that you're tuning in on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for continuing to engage in your small groups through this season. We know that you guys miss meeting in a physical space with all of us together, but we're so thankful for technology and the fact that, that they can still connect via Zoom calls and stuff like that. Like I said, if it's your first time here at Transit, one of the things that we just want you to know is that we hope that this content is helpful to you. We want to talk about things that you can actually apply to your life. And one of the ways that we feel like you can best figure out how to apply the things that we're talking about is by discussing them in small groups, which is where we're headed in just a little bit today. But we are wrapping up today a really awesome series that we've been in. Drew, tell us a little bit about that.
Today is part 3 for the series called Popular, all about how you can influence people and how you can change how you can influence people. I love this series. I wish I had seen this maybe when I was in middle school. Maybe I wouldn't have been as annoying as I was.
That may be true. I think you're pretty great now. You're a popular guy in my book, Drew.
Appreciate that,
You're welcome.
John.
You're welcome. We are going to continue the conversation with our friends as we talk about part 3 of Popular. We're going to kick it off. Let's get started.
Hey Siri, where's the nearest Chick-fil-A? She never works. Anyway, hey guys, my name is Lauren and I am so excited to be here with you today. But before we get started, I have a story that I want to share with you. It's an embarrassing story from middle school, and it happened in PE class, where every good, embarrassing middle school story takes place. You see, we were playing soccer in PE one day, and I am not athletic at all. I was actually the last to be picked for a team, so while we're playing soccer, I'm just kind of jogging back and forth, trying to look busy, but also staying far away from the action of the game. When all of a sudden, I'm in my own little world, just jogging up and down the field, and I look up and I see this shadow coming towards my face. And I'm thinking, gosh, I hope that's a bird. But immediately I realize it's not. It's the soccer ball heading straight for my face, and it makes contact with this side of my face, hits me so hard that I spin and fall to the ground. In that moment, I had a decision. I could either lay down and cry, which is what I wanted to do, or I could pop back up, pretend I'm chill and groovy and that didn't hurt at all, and everyone can laugh and we can just have a good moment. And I went with the second option. So I popped back up, I'm like, that was hilarious, guys. On the inside, I'm sobbing, but all my friends are laughing, it's hilarious, we're all having a fun moment together. And later on, I spend a lot of time putting makeup on a bruise on the side of my face. I think we can all agree that sometimes embarrassing moments can be really funny from the outside. Like when someone falls down in public or says the wrong word during a speech or trips in front of a room full of people or gets hit in the face with a soccer ball. We just can't help it. Something about that stuff can just be so funny. Well, that is unless it's happening to us, right? If someone else is known as the kid who fell down the stairs in front of school, it's funny. But when we're the one falling down the stairs, not so funny. You see, after I got hit in the face with a soccer ball in PE class, it kind of followed me everywhere. It kind of became what I was known for, which was a bummer because I have a lot to offer. But everyone was just talking about that one time I got hit in the face with a soccer ball. Lauren, remember that one time you got hit in the face with a soccer ball? Yes, I do, Shannon. I do remember that, and it's not funny, but I guess we'll pretend it's funny. Oh my gosh, it was like so funny. Listen, it followed me for years. But I guess if you were watching, it probably was kind of funny. Isn't it funny the way that works? You do one thing one time in your life, and suddenly that becomes the thing you're known for at school, on your team, at church, just about everywhere you go. It shapes people's opinions of you. In a way, our ability to influence other people works the same. Remember, Influence is the ability to have an effect on someone else, to impact things like their behavior or thoughts or choices. While we have a tendency to believe that something like influence is reserved for the people who are known or popular or kind of a big deal, the reality is we all have the potential to influence other people, for better or for worse. Because of that, we all have the same potential to lose that influence. Maybe you know someone right now who used to have a lot of influence. They were known for being friendly and funny and a person who tried to make good choices, but then they got caught drinking at that party or cheating on that test or spreading that nasty rumor about a friend. Just like that, their influence was gone. Now, instead of being known for all the good things they've done, they're simply known for the one big bad decision they made. Maybe you know this is true because it's happened to you. You were the kid who showed up every week to church, who always got straight A's, who had lots of friends, or who was a leader on your team. But one bad decision, one moment, one choice, one experience, and suddenly your reputation changed. Now people look at you and only see that bad decision, and because of that, you feel like you can't show up at church, or at school, or on the team, or even with your friends. But here's the deal. Those big decisions, those things we do that are open and obviously not good choices, they definitely have the power to cost us our influence. But you know what else does? The small, more secret things we do that don't seem like that big of a deal at the time. The harsh way you speak to your siblings, the way you yell at your teammates in the locker room, the secrets you share about your friends when they aren't around, the guy you're dating who you know isn't good for you, the way you look down on or judge the people in your small group, all those little things can add up over time. The more you do them, the more likely you are to become known as someone who does them. And the more likely you are to lose the influence you have over the people around you. When we put it this way, it sounds like a real bummer, doesn't it? You make bad choices, big or small, and just like that, your influence is gone. Your ability to be anyone other than a person who makes bad choices is over. You're stuck, and you'll never be able to get things back the way they used to be. Well, here's the good news. All that may feel like it's true, but trust me when I tell you that it isn't. No matter who you are, what you've done, or how you feel like it's impacted the way people see you and your ability to influence others, there is a way for things to be different. There is a way to find the influence you think is lost forever. I know this is true because I've seen it happen. In my own life, sure, but also in the life of one of the most important people in the history of the Christian faith, a guy named Peter. Now, Peter was one of Jesus' 12 disciples. The disciples were a group of guys who followed Jesus, learned from him, and lived life closely with him during his ministry on earth. But Peter wasn't just any disciple. He actually was one of the 3 men who had the closest relationship with Jesus. He was one of Jesus' most trusted friends. Peter loved Jesus. And when Jesus left earth after his death and resurrection, Peter became one of the men who carried his message and spread Christianity around the world as a leader in the early church. When Christians talk about Peter now, they talk about all the amazing things he did to grow the church and see more and more people believe in Jesus. They talk about what a big and bold and amazing faith he had. They talk about his influence. But here's what's interesting. Peter wasn't always that guy. Luke, one of Jesus' other disciples, wrote down a story in his account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of the Bible we know as Luke, and shows us a different side of Peter. This amazing leader with so much influence in the church, well, at one point, he did something so bad that he almost lost it all. Where we pick up the story, Jesus had just been arrested and was about to be put on trial for his life. This was the beginning of the end for Jesus, or at least that's what everybody thought. And because they followed Jesus so closely, the disciples were afraid that this was the beginning of the end for them too. If Jesus had just been arrested and had his life on the line, wouldn't the same be true for the people closest to him? As all of this unfolded, Peter followed Jesus to find out where he'd been taken. But because he was afraid for his own life, Peter also hid himself amongst the crowd, trying to blend in so that he wouldn't get noticed as a follower and friend of Jesus. Here's what happened. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. Do you catch what Peter did here? One of the most trusted friends, loyal followers, and closest servants of Jesus just straight up lied about being any of those things. He denied even knowing Jesus at all. This is like your best friend, your BFF, who knows all your secrets, is first on your Snapchat list, and is the #1 person on your group text, completely and totally dropping you in front of everybody. That's terrible, right? I don't know about you, but that's certainly not the way I would think one of the most influential leaders in the Christian faith would act. Shouldn't a guy who's so important in the history of the church be a guy who stood up for what he believed in and used his influence for good no matter what? Let me just stop here and let you know that this story goes from bad to worse. 2 more people came up to Peter in the crowd and asked him if he knew Jesus. And 2 more times, Peter denied knowing him. Right then and there, you'd think the potential for Peter to ever have any influence as a Christian would be lost. I mean, he denied even knowing the guy who all the Christian faith centers on. How could somebody who does that ever gain back the influence they've lost? Well, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Did Peter mess up here? Big time. Did he feel awful about it? Yes. Luke went on to tell us that Peter went outside and wept over what he'd done. He knew just how big and bad and costly those lies were, not just to his influence, but also to his relationship with Jesus. But that's the thing about Jesus. He doesn't see our mistakes the same way we do. He knows our sins are forgiven, and when we come to him honestly, he offers us the forgiveness we need to start over. Then, we can begin gaining back the influence we thought was gone for good. That's exactly what he did for his pal Peter. As you probably know, this story didn't seem like it ended all that well the first time. Jesus was killed, and his followers, Peter included, didn't really know what to do next. They were afraid and unsure and so very lost without their leader. But then, 3 days later, Jesus rose back from the dead. He came back to life, which is pretty amazing. And one of the first things he did was find his friends and followers, including Peter. In another account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of John, we find out what Jesus said to Peter when they were reunited. Take a look. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." With his very first question, Jesus was giving Peter a chance to change the story, to right the wrong, to be more than his mistakes, to gain back his influence. And this time around, Peter got it right. 3 times, Jesus asked Peter if he loved him. And 3 times, Peter confirmed his love for Jesus. He said one, "I love you," for every time he had denied Jesus. And Jesus' response? Well, it wasn't a call to take care of his actual sheep, because that would be weird. It was a command to take care of the people who will follow him. In the same way sheep follow a shepherd as their leader, believers in Jesus follow him. So by asking Peter to feed his lambs, Jesus was asking Peter to take care of his followers. He was asking Peter to tap back into the influence and use it to change the world through the message of Jesus. Jesus saw Peter as so much more than just his mistakes. And the good news is that he sees us in the very same way. No matter what we've done in the past, we have permission to love and follow Jesus right here in the present. Our mistakes and sins have been paid for. We can ask God for the forgiveness Jesus bought for us. And because we're forgiven, we can move forward on a new path step by step, gaining back the influence that we may feel like we've lost. Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Just like Peter, you can receive grace and forgiveness. How your story has gone before doesn't have to be the way it goes in the future. You can take a step toward Jesus and a step toward regaining some of the influence you feel like you've lost. To start, I want you to do 3 things. First, ask yourself what may be causing you to lose influence. Take a minute to think about the choices you might be making, big or small, that are impacting your ability to influence others for good. Is it the guy you're dating? The things you post on social media? The way you speak to kids in your class? Your attitude on the field? The friends you hung out with last week? The secret behaviors you think nobody knows about? Whatever it is, acknowledge what big or small choices might be chipping away at your influence. Next, confess it to God. Be honest with God about it all. Tell him what you're struggling through and ask for his help to overcome it. Ask for his forgiveness and believe that you've received it. Let that moment be the first step in rewriting the story of your influence. Finally, take the first step in the right direction. Take one small step toward gaining back influence you think might be lost. Maybe that means apologizing to someone you've wronged, or putting up boundaries in a relationship, or changing the way you talk to other people, or asking your small group leader to help you stay on the right path. Take one small step this week in the right direction, and next week, take another. Those small steps over time will lead to bigger and better influence in the long run. Remember, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. As you head out, think about this. What's one thing in my life that may be causing me to lose influence?
Man, I really enjoyed the end of this series. In fact, I've enjoyed this series all together, talking about influence and how we can make a difference in other people's lives, how other people can make a difference in our lives. And today, talking about how we can gain back influence when we lose it. And it really is easy to lose influence when we hurt someone's feelings, or maybe we say something we didn't mean to say. It's easy to lose it, and sometimes it seems so difficult to get it back. But today we really leaned into the idea, the little steps that we can take to gain influence back, and frankly, how Jesus can help us in the process, which really helps talk about our bottom line today.
Yeah, guys, the bottom line that Jesus won't allow small mistakes to be the end of your story is so important to remember, because at times when we do something wrong, we mess up, we make that mistake, it can feel as though it is over, it is
all
finished.
All hope is lost, right? It's hopeless.
Oh man, I know I have to work on that myself, feeling that way too much, too strongly, because even when it's not the end of the world, it comes over you. That's how it feels. So we want to make sure that you guys understand that there is more past that, and you can take steps in the right direction, even if you've taken steps in a wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And that not only is Jesus going to be able to be invited into the process, that he wants to help us take steps towards solving the problem that we've created, but there's amazing people in your life, your parents, your friends, your amazing small group leaders in your small group who would love to be with you as we continue this conversation, and would love to sit in moments with you when you do lose influence. And so that's why I'm so excited about the opportunity that you guys have right now to head into small groups, to talk with adults who are a little bit older than you, and to talk with your friends, to really lean in and discuss this idea in small groups about losing influence, and to really wrap up this series that we have been in called Popular. So as you guys get ready to go to small group, I want to really encourage you to just be real, be honest, and to join into the conversation as you guys head into your small group. Small group leaders, thank you so much for being amazing and for leading these conversations well. Drew, how can they get to their small group?
So if you are new here or you haven't been here that many times, we're going to have a phone number floating somewhere on screen. I think it'll be like right there, like right there. You can text that phone number, or you can click the link down in the description to send you to a place to give your information of your name, your grade, and your gender, so we can get you put into the right group. Thank you all so much for joining us on today's episode.
Yeah, we hope that you enjoyed Transit with us today. You guys are going to head to small groups in the way that Drew lets you know how to do that. But before we do, I'd just like to pray for us real quick to set up our conversations for today. Jesus, thank you so much for the opportunity that we have had to be a part of this series that we called Popular. I hope that it has been so helpful to the students. And so God, as we talk about influence and how you want to help us when we've lost influence, when we've made mistakes, and how you want to help us see that it's not the end of our story, that no matter what mistakes we've made and how hopeless it may feel, that it is not the end, that there is hope. And so I'm so excited for the students as they head to small groups to talk about this idea together. So in your name, pray. Amen. Amen. Guys, enjoy your small group as you guys talk about the content we covered today with your small group. After that, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.